live, powered by BNI. Welcome, everyone, as you join us. Today, we are going to be talking with Garry with Highcrest Roofing and Construction, and he is going to talk about two important things. Number one, we're going to be talking about how do you actually pick a roofing contractor. I think that's really important now that you've got a lot of roofing contractors you can pick from, but also, too, we're going to talk about how to really onboard yourself into BNI. If you're looking at joining BNI, how to really onboard yourself and to really learn from that initial experience. So let's get started. You can always catch us on Fridays at 11 a.m. Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and then also catch the replays on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. So welcome, Garry. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, glad to be here, Meaghan.
Yeah, love it. So let's talk about the roofing business and how you ultimately got into the roofing business.
Ultimately got roofing. Let's see. I think I can go back to when I was in high school, actually, summer job. I had a friend of mine his family owned a roofing business. And so it was kind of that summer part-time job between lifeguarding a little bit, working out for the football team that summer and all that stuff. And it was hot and it was nasty. And I thought, man, I got to go to school. I never want to do this for a living. And now I never would have thought here, years later, that I own a roofing company, but here I am.
So how did you come full circle to say, let's
I've always been in the construction industry pretty much. Most of my big boy jobs have all been in that construction world. And I wish I could have this wonderful story. Like I just dreamed of being my own businessman. Really, the best thing that ever happened to me in my life was the recession in 2007, because I got laid off with a major construction company. And it was an easy layoff. They said, Garry, the job that you're on will be your last job. But it had like 8 months to prepare for it. And I got kind of severanced out. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? And I had a friend of mine who he and a few other people had a roofing company. And he said, I need somebody to manage it. And from there, I just sort of thought, okay, this will be something until I get a real job. And I guess I'm still looking for a real job. I got into the partnership with that. And a few years later, I went out on my own. And so it's been a real blessing. So all these people had these dreams of being into home ownership. I figured I couldn't fire me. And so, and it's been the best thing to ever happen to me. And it's been very life-changing. It's become a family business. Highcrest is owned by myself. My wife does the bookkeeping. She retired from a corporate job of 27 years to come to work for me doing that. And then my youngest son, I have two sons, and my youngest son, they both graduated college. He was working a career type job. I just didn't think he'd ever consider working for me. And actually, it was a coworker who suggested that Jamie come on board. And he was more than glad to come on board, and he is now the future of their company. So I love the fact that it's a legacy now. Everything I built will carry on, and Jamie's a smart young man. He's 30 years old, and the company's going to be in good hands in the future, long after myself, my wife, Ann decide to call it a career.
I love that. So it sounds like you kind of now can be fired again since you brought Ann into the fold.
I'm sorry, repeat that.
I said it sounds like you can be fired again now that you brought Ann into the fold.
I guess so. I will tell you a funny story. We just recently moved into a new home, and we've taken office upstairs, and there's this big desk, and then there's this small desk. And the guy that was coming in to do the kind of a service man came in doing some work on the TVs. He pointed out the big desk and the small desk, and I said, "Yeah, that big desk belongs to my wife." And he goes, "Well, you know who the boss is?" I said, "Exactly."
That's great. So what would you say is the biggest difference between being someone who manages a company like yours and somebody who owns a company like yours?
It never goes away from you when you're in ownership. I think when you're management or in any level of work, you look forward to that kind of weekend, or that downtime. Really, I don't ever feel like there's downtime when you're in the ownership of it. Yeah. You get, it's always on your mind. It permeates you, and it becomes kind of a passion. But I'll be honest with you. I don't feel like I work. I love what I do. And so it makes it fun. And it's fun. My wife and I, Ann is her name, and we've been married 37 and a half years. And we always thought it'd be wonderful to work together. We thought we could have her strengths and my weaknesses, and that we're really compatible. We build off it. We kind of sharpen each other's iron, so to speak. So it was wonderful to kind of work together. And now she's in on it, and it's really weird. We have to learn how to cut it off. And even we know when to talk about work and when not to make it, to separate us. And I need to apologize.
I know. You've got construction going on. No, it is fine. It is.
I apologize for that.
Yeah.
We've got, I need to move rooms.
You're just fine. We can hear you just fine, though. Yeah. We got a gentleman here, a service guy in my new home, and he is drilling outside the house. Wow, that's impressive. You can hear it.
Yeah.
No problem.
Worst timing ever,
No, it's fine. It's fine. So we can hear you pretty clearly. We do hear the background, but we can hear you pretty clearly. So that is very interesting that the two of you really felt like you could really grow and as a couple. Oh, you're probably having a hard time.
I can't hear you.
Okay.
I apologize.
No, it's okay.
I'm going to ask them to stop the drill.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
All right. So so it's interesting that you two come together and can work together as husband and wife, because sometimes that doesn't work so well, and especially that you guys have figured out the boundaries and things like that, so that you can ultimately do it successfully.
We again, I mentioned the strengths and weaknesses. I'm really good with the customers, how to sell, and Ann is more of the person that can really handle the bookkeeping, which, quite frankly, I hate. And she's got an accounting background, so that's really where it kind of helps. Jamie comes in. Jamie's sort of a good mix between the two of us. So for that reason, he's been able to kind of cultivate his own culture within us, and it's really tied in very well.
Yeah, excellent, awesome. So I'm really curious because as in the pre-show, I was sharing with you kind of a disastrous experience that my parents had with construction. What is for people who are purchasing and thinking about construction, roofing, all that kind of stuff? What would be some good tips or some good questions to ask to ensure that somebody is very, very much reputable and knows what they're doing, and you're going to get high quality from them?
I think the biggest thing is to have one of the first things is to have a good home inspector to get them in. It blows my mind how many people buy homes without a home inspection. As a matter of fact, it's really funny. It happened recently within my own family. I have a relative that she's in the title industry, so she's aware of the realty world. And her own mother, she gave her grace to buy this house without home inspecting. And we walked into a problem And now they call me after they're in and go, hey, can you go fix, now I had to come in and do all this major fix up. And they were like, do we have any recall in this? And there was none. They didn't get it home inspected. And I was like, you've got to make sure that you get a home inspector to get in there, make sure that, and they're not going to, they're human, so they're going to make mistakes or miss some things. But long term, I think that's the best way to get to avoid those pitfalls.
Yeah. Well, and also I think I would go, if you're really concerned, also go as far as to getting a roof, someone who is in roofing to actually take a look at the roof before. I mean, it's one of the single biggest things you're going to have to do as far as maintenance is on your home.
Homeowner, I mean, a good home inspector will inspect the roof, but I probably get a call a day from home inspectors around the Birmingham area asking us to do a little more thorough work. And we're glad to do that.
Yeah. Excellent. So tell us, so you are a roofer that you're by referral. You basically do all of your business by referral. What has it taken to get to 100% referral instead of doing a lot of advertising?
It's funny when we do a roof, I want to make the best roof possible. In sales, I can remember my older brother, I was going into the sales world, and it was all in the construction basis. And he said, whatever you do, sell something that's disposable. In other words, you have repeat business. Well, you don't have a lot of repeat business in roofing. You build a good roof, they're not calling you back for, until the next storm or 30 years later. And it's hard to get repeat business from that client. So the only way I can get repeat business is to do the best roof I possibly can for that family. So we do such a great job that they'll tell their friends, their family, their neighbors about the great job that Highcrest did for them. And then that's how it becomes referral. Yeah. And of course, to layer that, being in B&I, I've got referrals. I consider the people in my B&I group really essentially an extension of my sales force. I'm trying to educate them to look for certain things, what to look for, 1 minute process. Every week we have an opportunity to do that, specify what I'm looking for, and then I can get referrals outside of that. Fortunately now for 10 years, it's starting now to become a lot of repeat business. Yeah. And quite frankly, I would say that there was a day and time I thought 60-70% of my work came from B&I. It may be more than that, less than that. It's layered so far now that I've lost track. Sometimes I think if I sat down and talked to the family that I roofed this week, I could probably trace it all the way back to the B&I referral.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So let's talk about your B&I experience, because it's very interesting. You didn't start out with like the culture of B&I written all over you. You had to kind of learn it a little bit. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I knew a lot about being educated. Yeah. I like that aspect of it, is trying to learn and train. You mentioned ownership earlier. B&I helped me with my own ownership as far as learning from other owners on how to learn the business. But to directly answer your question, I came in and I was like kind of dumbfounded. A friend told me about it and said, you need to test drive it. I was actually in a group that was called a startup group that wasn't getting off the ground, just wasn't working. And just down the road was a startup group in Pelham that I think they were in it about 6 months, and within about 6 months, they lost their roofer. And I was told, hey, why don't you swing over there and kind of dip your toe into that? And I went in, and it was really interesting because myself, along with about 5 other roofers, applied. And it was like, okay, it was the battle of wheels. I think I look back on it. I think I got the spot because I kept coming back. I just showed up every Thursday. And the other guys would come and go, and they were like, okay, you're consistent. Let's keep you in here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you didn't take on the giver's gain piece, or you didn't understand that giving really was the way you were going to ultimately make
Well,
it.
yeah, when I joined the group, I was like, all right, I'm in. And I was like, all right, hey, give me. My name's Jimmy. Where is it? And it didn't work that way. And it's funny because I lived at the time of my life, about 20 something years in the community. And I thought I kind of knew everybody. And I walked in, I didn't know anybody. And I looked across the room and I was like, they really got to get to know me, especially my inner circle of other service industry. So if I stood up and I showed you, I didn't get this girlish figure because I didn't know how to eat. And I just thought, I'm going to take advantage of that time. And I'm just going to start picking up the phone. I call these folks and I have lunch with them every day. And I decided at the time, I think we had 20 something members. I put a timeline on, okay, I'm going to have a one-to-one with everyone by the end of the month. And I started with that inner circle and worked my way out. Well, it's funny, the interesting thing about that is the last person that I talked to, the person furthest away from what I would think would help me is B&I became one of my best referral sources. So, but I just started breaking bread with them and learned. And at that point, I started caring about them so much that I really didn't care about whether I got business or not. I just cared more about getting them business. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, it's got a little hint of spirituality in where it comes back and you're returned tenfold from what you do. So I got to the point where I really didn't care how much business I got. I just was trying to find them business. Once I started working for them, it started working major league for me.
What do you think? So for the person, what did you think was your turning point? Was it just like, this isn't working for me? Maybe if I try getting to know everyone, what do you think was the thought process you had to get that turnaround? Because your alternative was also, this isn't working for me and I'm just not going to do it anymore.
It happened relatively quick. I was in B&I maybe. I got a unique experience. I was going in it as a guest. I had put in my application, but it took a little while to turn around because I had competition, and it was a weeding out process. The membership committee at the time, there were a new B&I group, so they weren't moving probably as fast as we do now and making quicker decisions. And I kind of got it from the get go. I just really, when I was a guest, I just said, the heck with it, I'm going to pretend I'm a member. And I just started giving out referrals at that point and I started having the one-to-ones. So it was really funny when I officially became a member. Now I was able to enter everything in, and I had that little backlog. I was like, green light right up the door.
Love it.
But no, I felt like I got that pretty quickly. I just it was just pretty obvious that you just had to get to know the people in the room. And I'll tell you one thing too. What frustrates me so much is when somebody comes as a guest and they go, I just don't know if I have the time for this. I'm like, you don't have the time to make money. You don't have the time to have a room full of salespeople. What the heck are you doing? Maybe you need to be in here. You need to learn how to manage your time and make this the most important meeting you go to every week.
Well, I think it's interesting because clearly we don't do a great job of showing like the time you put in is worth the value, because I mean, we talk about it in the macro, right? Of the chapter did, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million worth of business. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's hard for them to get down to. Okay, so what exactly what part of that would be mine? So one of the things we've started saying is, on average, picture every single person in the chapter dumping $58 million into the center of the room. And right. you get the part that you deserve from that piece based on what how you build your relationships and how you communicate what you're looking for is one of the ways we've been talking about it.
I've always thought the people that don't make it in B&I, it's their fault. It's always their fault. They didn't buy into, they didn't do the work to get into it. And now, as a member or as a part of it, your job is really to try to help those people succeed. It breaks my heart when I see people that I think could have made it to walk away. Now, people have obvious they have job changes or moved. I get that kind of stuff. But there's just some people just don't quite buy in. And I can only say so, good luck, and move on. But and I do understand, like in our industry, the service industry, we've talked about it for years. You can't get a plumber in here. It's a hard time to get an electrician. Those guys are so busy. They're so busy. They're so busy. I kind of get that from being on my end. You asked a question about ownership, and that's where I've spent more time in the managing of the whole operation that I have to really trigger myself and go, okay, ground yourself, Gary. I'm still got a Thursday meeting to go to. That's the most important thing I got to go to every week.
Well, and a friend of mine just recently said she from her own experience, it was at least there's one day a week that I have to get off the couch. Like if I do nothing all week because I'm not super motivated, at least one day a week, I've got to get myself dressed up, go to this meeting, think about what I'm supposed to be doing and communicating that to everybody else. And that becomes it just kind of becomes that kickstart of like, well, what if I do this 2 days a week? What if I do this 3 days a week? To kind of get yourself motivated as well, especially if you're a solopreneur.
I can only speak for myself, but I heard this yesterday from another BNI member. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. The subject matter was things we were grateful for. And he was talking about being grateful for the people in the room because he said that his business is kind of a Lone Ranger kind of world. He's a private owner. He's in the financial business. And he doesn't really have anybody to bat off of. And, I can when I was in corporate world, I had, Alan down the hall and David over here. And we can, you had that water break friends, go in the coffee room and talk and laugh and cut up and just have that. You could talk business, you can talk pleasure, whatever. You had that. We're kind of Lone Rangers sometimes when we're into small business ownership. And so now we have a room full of people that, if I'm having a little trouble that day, just whatever, just in that melancholy mood, I could pick up the phone and I can name the names of people in my group that I can call and just get the pick me up and the build up and that iron sharpening the iron with each other. And it kind of made me glad to hear Travis Sherman say the same thing yesterday because I've been there. I know what it's like to kind of be lonely and be out there, and you need that other camaraderie. And so if you're in a small business, I strongly encourage a BNI process for you because it helps you manage, it helps you become a better ownership, it becomes a better person. I've learned how to treat people better. You just kind of listen to everybody and do better from that, learn from it.
Well, and just yesterday I was talking about how BNI, we mentor each other, right? And and the mentor I had when I started 18 years ago as a BNI member, the mentor that I had that put her arm around me and said, hey, let me help you. And then the mentoring I've done, but at the same time, like we still mentor each other because I could, like you just said, I could be having a bad day and call someone up and they're pumping me up again because they know exactly what it's like to be, to be in my shoes, which is what I love about bringing business owners together because otherwise you're lonely and you've got to figure out all the solutions to all the problems all by yourself. Well,
and to brag about you for a minute, because you and I have known each other for about 10 years.
We have known each other for a long time.
And I remember your story. I remember you talking about not dressing the part of the role that you were in and things like that. You learn from people like that. You learn from those kind of stories.
Absolutely. And seeing someone else's success and seeing you scale, right? And start bringing in more people and all that if that's what I want to do and I'm not there yet, I can go to you and say, hey, Gary, I know we're in different businesses. So like, give me all your tips and tricks. And almost all of them in business would apply directly to me because it's marketing and sales and finance and operations. We're all kind of doing the same buckets of things when we're in business ownership.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. So if a roofing company was thinking about in another place was thinking about joining BNI, what would you tell them?
don't hesitate. I mean, run to it, commit to it. I don't know what I'd do without BNI. And I mean, really and truly, myself and Jamie, my son, who's in the business, we're both in BNI, and it's become probably the number one resource for us as far as business. And I'm not gonna. You got to have the right personality. It's not a fit for everybody. We know that. I mean, it's just anything. But if you commit to the time and do everything that you're supposed to do, there's no way you can fail.
Yeah, and it is, and I know that you love this, the fellowship, right? It's if you like being a lone ranger, do it. But if you like fellowship and you say to yourself, God, this is kind of lonely every once in a while, yeah, you've got a bunch of other people who feel the exact same way and are more than happy to work with you. So
yeah, it just, I feel like I wish I could grow. Like if there's not a BNI member that doesn't have it, if there's a roofing seat available, it frustrates me. I'm thinking, I wish I was in that area, had enough people to put them there, because I feel like it's that valuable to everybody.
Well, I will tell you, in your area, just recently had somebody reach out and say, is there a roofing seat available? And there are 0 in Birmingham.
Well, and it should be that way. It's a hot spot.
It is very much. Yeah, it's become one of our top 6 for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, one, for being a BNI member for so long, and thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience with all of us.
I'm honored to do it.
Yeah, and very much appreciate that for all of our listeners as we learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meaghan.
All right.
You have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too as well. You too as well.
Right.
Next week, we are going to be talking gratitude, Thanksgiving, and how it all applies to your referral network as well. Don't count on everybody being here the day after Thanksgiving, but we will absolutely have a show for you. So please do listen in. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.